let me switch to English in order to properly welcome Peter and introduce him to all of you. Even if, aside to be global head of design at Philips, the experience Peter had in his past, initially in IDEO, but then going through many other corporations such as Microsoft or even Amazon, is honestly say impressive. And this is the reason why I'm more than glad, honestly saying, I'm really happy to have him here. And I'm more than sure that the speech he's going to share with us will contribute to the reflection that we are developing in the Observatory Futures Sense-Making by System Thinking. As you can already read, Peter will talk with us about the role that design could play in conceiving human well-being, especially in a context that is significantly transforming because of the opportunities provided by artificial intelligence. Before leaving the floor to him, and more specifically both the voice as well as the screen, let me share with you that, as usual, you will have the opportunity to share with us the question that you would like to give to Peter at the end of the perspective, or specifically during the debate, through a digital platform that will be on for the entire talk of Peter. So in a while we will put even the link in the chat, and you can access it when you want. And through that platform, you will be able to, let's say, suggest to us those questions that could be meaningful to you if you would like to share with Peter. Now, being 5 minutes late, sorry, Peter, for that. It's really the moment to leave the floor to Peter, and thank you again for being here with us and sharing the reflection that you are going to gift to us.
Wonderful. Can all of you see my screen?
Super. Yep.
Super. Claudio, it is an honor to be here. Philips has had this incredible collaboration with Politecnico Milano for many years, also through Stefano Marzano, who presented actually with me at Philips to the entire design community last week even, so we're connected. So I'm going to talk about this through the lens of design. Philips is interesting in that our key differentiators as a company, our innovation, particularly around the area of large language models and AI, sustainability, and design. And if you look at our history, it all began with light. Data is the new light. And if you look at the original brand identity from Louis Calf in 1925 here, the stars represented light and the curves represented communication. Actually, insights are the new communication, data is the new light. And the best results always start from working backwards from your customer, understanding their needs, their context, and working backwards. So we try to understand what their needs are and working backwards. And the key questions you have to ask are, who is your customer? What problem are you trying to solve? What is the most important customer benefit? How do you know if you're right about what that need is? And then always prototype and have a bias towards building as opposed to talking about it or doing PowerPoint presentations so that it is not abstract for your stakeholders. And what's not working backwards is this. So everybody knows, of course, the experience gets better as you add more features, right? Everybody in the room should nodding their head, yes? Yeah? No, wrong. Customers ask for more. People feel like you have to match the competition, but the reality is that the goal is to eliminate frustration. People don't ask for this. Frustrations are universal, though. They're not trendy. And if you work on fixing this, less frustration actually equals cool and generates the most long-term differentiation. So my whole career has been about often fighting product managers that want to add features. And instead, you focus on key things like simplicity and speed. Sometimes 100 milliseconds is more important than any feature that you add. And you want to focus on the key experiences, the key jobs to be done, jettison everything else. And so instead of having a poor product, you have a great product. And unconventional thinking is focusing on this stuff and also knowing what the real problems are. So you have to experience the customer's journey, often through contextual inquiry, which is like you're watching them, in order to understand the full journey. What touch points do they have with the product? Who are they? What are their pain points? What interventions can you make to solve those pain points? And then ultimately prototype early when failures are really inexpensive. So what are the pain points in healthcare? So it's an exceedingly complicated environment, safety critical, inherently complex. And what's different now, actually, even in the last couple of years, is that care is under pressure everywhere. Staff burnout leading to staff shortages. It's getting more expensive. We're lowering the quality of patient outcomes, like maternal health, maternal life from delivering babies has gone down in the U.S. It's actually becoming more like a third world country or an emerging country. It's a worse patient experience. You have aging populations with the rise of chronic diseases. So these are really significant problems. And you have a 1 in a million chance of being injured while traveling by aircraft, and a 1 in 300 chance of being harmed throughout the patient journey. People don't realize that the number 3 cause of death from healthcare is actually errors. People have no idea. It's like cancer, heart attacks, and then errors is the number 3 cause of death. Up to 50% of these errors are often due to administration reasons, and we're going to have a shortfall that's going to make it even harder, and particularly tough with low and middle income countries, making that challenge even harder. So, okay, this is a talk about Gen AI. How come I have not said anything about Gen AI yet? And the reason why is I want everyone always to remember to focus on the needs first. Gen AI is a technology. Now, it has exploded with the fastest uptake in history. So, we took 3.5 years for Netflix to reach 1 million. It took a couple days for generative AI to hit 1 million users. Insane. And when Google announced a factual error in their AI model, they lost 100 billion in market value in a day. I mean, this is so significant. I never imagined it would be happening this quickly. And so, but it helps to understand what it is. So artificial intelligence is the top layer. Machine learning is the next layer down, which is building models based on patterns and data. Deep learning is a particular kind of machine learning. So that's deep multi-layered neural networks performing complex tasks. Generative AI, which is the newest form of this based on large foundational models. This is where all the attention is, all the media attention, etc. It's on generative AI. It is a subset of AI. Now, how it works is you basically have the terabytes of huge unlabeled data that you train into a foundational model. And if you can probably see my cursor, then you use a small amount of local data basically to tune this, often with a human in the loop, and that generates a variety of tasks. So you start with the foundational model, you fine tune it, you then use prompting in order to develop the data flow, and then all of this is driving downstream tasks. So the 3 big changes that are happening from generative large language models, as machine learning, a subset of AI, is that design becomes radically easier and faster. We use insights and prediction to save huge amounts of time to help the burden for these workers, and it becomes highly personalized. Like, these are 3 major shifts that even 9 months ago, I never would have told you, or a year ago, that it would happen this fast. So all of these sources of unstructured data abound in healthcare. They're now assets. We can leverage all of this data to create models that make it faster to design, that make predictive outcomes, that make it personalized. And there are a bunch of use cases here. You can classify data, you can summarize, do a patient review really quickly, you can extract data, you can paraphrase information, you can translate multiple culture modalities, you can generate synthetic data to validate and make your testing go faster, to do exams, to do reports, to handle complaints and service tickets and manuals and analysis and drive dialogue and debate and therapy and image generation and data viz. There's all these things. Often, sometimes it's hard to even figure out what should I be paying attention to. You know, where do you focus your time? But like one of the big things for us is that on the basis of a secure foundation, you take accurate measurements, like for example, in hospital patient monitoring, it's real time. You can have predictive algorithms that will drive clinical decision making. What this does is it allows me to predict that in 3 hours, a patient may become hemodynamically unstable and they may die. But if I take this action now, that risk will never actually happen. This loop, leveraging this data to inform decision making and reduce errors and to eliminate patient crises, is the thing that's really transforming care. And that data is like includes patient data, includes imaging, wearable information, pathology, which is like how we handle images from MR machines or from scans, and then omics like genomics, etc. And we can turn that data into predictive insights. 30% of all the global data in the world is generated by healthcare. Unbelievable amount of data, but hardly anyone is using it yet. So there's a huge opportunity. And I'm going to give you just a couple examples. So, you know, here you have someone looking at having a discussion with a nurse, and who do I need to pay attention to? You can analyze patients, and with that data, you can actually see exactly which individuals you need to pay attention to. That would be very difficult to do in today's existing framework, but leveraging this data, we can deliver a scenario like this. Here is a radiologist looking at a scan from like an MR machine. Give me a quick summary of the systems that before the next meeting. Okay, I collected all the available data from sources to construct an answer of what's happening with this individual patient. Or analyzing and creating this chart would take a massive amount of time. Most clinicians, they probably spend 35% of their time in paper-based or data administrative-based distractions rather than spending that time with the patient. So we can automate all these things, like, right? Here's another one. Let me go to the next one. There we go. Here we go. So here you have a case where, okay, I see a blockage is in the left descending artery. Do you want me to proceed with the angioplasty? Yes, please. Generating a log. Now you generate a complete log of everything that happened so that the doctor or the clinician doesn't have to recreate that from scratch. Now you just saved them massive amounts of time. You will reduce the cost of care and you have a better experience. Okay, now so those are some big transitions that are happening with data. What's happening with design tooling? AI is not going to replace us, our innovators, but designers who use AI will definitely replace those that don't. So this means you better get into this because it's going to have a huge impact on your career. It's already supercharging creative work. I mean, you see examples of this in creating a web app with your voice, video games created by AI. 48% of the code on GitHub already is AI driven, generated. You can build a startup entirely with chat AI. Brand collaborations exist already. You look at tools to create supportive design, Firefly, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion. You can create these kinds of images in minutes. It would have taken you people days. So like if you can use these tools, it's also the power to deliver mediocrity if you don't have the training to know what good is. That's why the design education and working with Claudio every day is going to be so valuable for you, because it does not replace what you do every day. So like in Firefly, for example, you know, we're already generating complete storyboards just with AI. Here's all of our personas. We never write these anymore. This takes 2 minutes. We have a special prompt and a code that we wrote so that we generate all of our personas directly from a prompt, and it automatically puts in traits, pain points. It pulls all this information from the web, and it's better than the ones that we used to write. It's better. It's better work, and it takes us minutes. Here's another one. You know, here's a nurse. Now here's the problem. What did it do? It put the white guy in the wheelchair who they assumed would be the warrior. It was the white nurse. So there's some bias in what these models produce, and you have to be really careful to make sure that you cut the bias so that you leverage a diverse community that represents our customers. And I'll talk about that in more, you know, in a bit later when we talk about the downsides. You know, here's an example. Okay, this is real time. My 5-year-old wants to create a super duper sunflower hedgehog. What does it look like? Okay, so now we're leveraging images. You know, okay, describe what you want to see. Change the scene to winter. Generate. Bang. I mean, it's unimaginable years ago that if you would do renderings like this and deal with lighting, etc., it would take you hours to create this complete rotation. And we used to pay like tens, $100,000 to get this kind of stuff generated. But now you can do it in minutes, nearly for free. So that's what I'm saying is, like, if you don't learn how to use these tools, you're going to be out innovated by people who are using those tools. You know, okay, do a backflip, right? You know, it just goes on. It's like, you know, incredible how fast the stuff has happened, and people just don't realize, you know, like here I'm, you know, generating architectural plans. Like it just goes on and on and on. And like, you know, run optimization is like instantly running an optimization of how to handle all of the floor plans to create the best plan. This stuff is just mind-blowing how fast it's happening. I'll show you another example. Here's, you know, Viscom. You can see your sketch come to life. You instantly create, I mean, this one's probably sped up about 5x, but still, like, you know, people training at Art Center for years to be able to create that kind of renderings. Now, you still have to do the final one yourself, but you can get a lot of ideas and you can advance through some of the rough ideas. It enriches what the designer does. It does not replace the designer ever. Watch this. Static image, right? This is in Runway. Clouds. Animated clouds. Boat moving. Okay, now automatically animates that. Truck, including the audio. Animating smoke. Animating a fire or a waterfall or walking backwards or a fire, like. Anyway, you get the point. Like, this stuff is crazy. All right, so what is not well-being? How do we fix it? What well-being is bias. Bias can be toxic, and the data that is trained in these models are not equal. So it means that you manually need to go through and ensure that the work that you do is free of implicit bias. That's tricky. It crosses cultural lines, gender lines, language lines, you know, color of your skin, etc. Be really sensitive to this and assume the data that you get is going to have some bias, often towards like 50-year-old white guys like me, right? And so I have to be really sensitive to this. You also have to be sensitive to all of the, you know, the IP risks here. Like there's a big one with New York Times that about 3 weeks ago launched where they may have to potentially even wipe out a big chunk of ChatGPT 3.5 they could effectively shut down ChatGPT-3.5. It's possible, right? That's because these large language models are like giant vacuums that hoover up everybody's IP. It creates a risk. The next is, training a large language model consumes 1.3 gigawatt hours of energy. That's enough to power 400 Dutch homes, or I'm sure 400 Italian homes. The human brain is pretty good. 20 watts. The right compute architecture, the scalable code structures, all that stuff matters. Everything that you put in these models is public, unless you use an enterprise backend that you're paying for. Like we often are using AWS. Why am I forgetting the name? It starts with a B. It'll come to me. Anyway, there's an AWS backend that means that all of your private data that you put into this, you are keeping that. You are not mixing it with the large language models. That's a cost. Outcome, it could be incorrect. It could be copyrighted. So be careful with public-facing content. You need to be sure that the beta tools don't infringe on security or privacy, or that user data or anyone's customer data goes up there, because you're liable for that. We carefully look at this stuff, and there are a set of principles here, principles that we commit to at Philips around well-being, that were designed to contribute to sustainable development, that we're using it to augment and empower people, that we want robust solutions that are intended to do no harm with appropriate protection against misuse, that it's fair, and we validate that data that's representative of a target group for the intended user. We aim to avoid bias or discrimination. We insist on being transparent and disclosing what functions and features are AI enabled, so it's validated in the ultimate decision-making with a human in the loop, stands with the clinician or a person, and we commit to that being ethical. So these things we hold these truths to be self-evident. And lastly, Gen AI is a tool. Understand your user needs first, then use a bias towards building and prototype. Fail early. Nothing is a mistake. There is no win. There's no fail. There's only make. Thank you very much. And I hand the mic back to you.
Thank you very much,
Claudia.
Peter, for the nice talk. I have already see that we receive more than 10 questions, and probably other ones will come in a while. I'm really glad about the talk that you give to us, going through well-being, health, as well as the role that Gen AI will have. Is already having and will have in the near future. So thank you very much for the gift, and hopefully you will be here with us even during the debate in order to deal with the question that will come in a while.